Sports Night.
Senator John McCain, our special guest on Sports Night, and I want to, probably Arizona's #1 sports fan. Let's go back a few months and your reflections on the Super Bowl as you saw Larry Fitzgerald late in the game running for the end zone. I know how long you've covered this team. You're a big fan of the Cardinals. What was it like for you?
I was exuberant like every citizen of Arizona practically, but I still think, and you do too, I know, the defining event of that game was the run back of the fumble before halftime. We had everything going for us. Even a field goal would have put that game out of reach. But look, I'm so proud of this team. A role model like Kurt Warner, Larry Fitzgerald is a young man that's is one of the nicest and humble young people I've ever known. I've only met him twice, but I'm very impressed with him. What a coach. Look, it shows that if you live long enough and hope long enough, that anything can happen in America.
What an inspiration it was. I want to go back a few years because you spearheaded the movement to try to clean up Major League Baseball and the implication of what it means to youth sports. And just in the last year, Roger Clemens is still trying to defend himself. And more recently,
Big story in Sports Illustrated about it.
Alex Rodriguez. I mean, I'm talking in the last few days, Selena Roberts saying his steroid use may have gone back to high school. Has Congress done enough? Does more need to be done?
I'm always reluctant for Congress to get into these things, #1. But again, baseball has got to do it. But third of all, if it begins in high school, and that is a concern, greater and greater concern now, when are we recruiting pro athletes when they're in the 8th grade? There has to be measures taken earlier on. But look, I'm a great admirer of A-Rod's. I'm a great admirer of Roger Clemens, and it's just a sad thing to see. But I will finally, you and I could spend an hour on it. But I do believe that baseball, in the form of Selig, didn't act harshly enough, but also Don Fair did not, in some ways, impeded progress in addressing this issue.
Both sides of the fence, players union and management and ownership.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, let's look at cage fighting. Years ago, you were outspoken saying you got to clean it up. There's no standards, there's no regulation. It's the rage right now. Boxing, quite frankly, for the most part, is fading. MMA, UFC is skyrocketing, especially young people, 18 to 35. What do you think MMA, UFC is at? Are you happy with the standards? Because it is the rage these days.
I'm not very happy with it, but they've cleaned it up to the point where it's not the kind of brutality that we saw when it started. I just am not a fan of it, but I understand why people are, and I'm not in favor of restricting it. And you're seeing a perfect example Saturday night of what's happened to boxing. We're going to see for, $49 or $50, you'll be able to see one of the great fights in a long time, Ricky Hatton and Manny Pacquiao. I mean, these are two great fighters. But instead of it being exposed to how many millions of people, if it were on one of the major television networks, it's going to be restricted to pay-per-view. Pay-per-view has provided huge revenue and at the same time had a dramatic effect on the popularity of boxing. The average citizens, particularly today, can't pay $49.95. I've forgotten what it is. That's what the usual.
$50.
Yeah. So pay-per-view, I think, has been both a short-term source of great revenue for these fighters and long-term is contributing to the decline of the sport.
I want to talk about a topic that's mainstream as it gets. I mean, I remember as a kid playing on the playground hour after hour after hour, just loving playing ball of any kind, baseball, basketball, football. Childhood obesity. We see it more and more. These kids aren't playing athletics, phys ed programs being cut. And we're talking about young kids with cholesterol problems, heart disease. Will our leadership in Washington take the ball and say, we got to do something here?
Well, we have to obviously have health insurance plans that reward wellness and fitness. But I remember during the campaign, I was at a hospital in Miami, and we had various witnesses or people in the conversation. One was a young man that had lost 90-some pounds because he'd entered Shaq's challenge. Shaquille O'Neal had a challenge to young people that were overweight to lose weight, and you'd be amazed at the thousands of young people that voluntarily got engaged in that program. I'd like to see our athletes, the real role models, not the politicians, the athletes, get a lot more involved.
And Shaq has done quite a bit. Senator John McCain, we always appreciate you checking in with Sports Night, and again, thanks for your time tonight.
Jude, could I just finally say, you've done a great job for many years, and it's been a pleasure to shoot the breeze with you on a whole lot of sports issues. There's nothing I enjoy more.
I enjoy it immensely as well, Senator. Thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
And there's more sports to come. Your